Hi, my name's Colin, and this is episode 1 of Basic Politics. Alright, good to be back with you. Today's subject is the subject of the debt ceiling. Now, the United States is in debt. We've been in debt since the mid-1820s when Andrew Jackson was able to pay it off. It's not a huge deal, but the subject is on the size of the debt. Now, in the about 1940s, Congress decided to institute a debt ceiling so that we would not have to vote on every single spending operation. So the idea of the debt ceiling is that you'll have a debt ceiling at, say, this level, and your debt's here. So whenever your debt just raises the ceiling, you just raise it, and you just keep raising the ceiling. And it's worked for about 70 years. But the problem is, last November, our debt surpassed our GDP. Now, this isn't the end of the world. Obviously, it's not the end of the world because we're here today. But it was kind of a landmark moment that made Americans realize our debt's a little large. Now, England, for example, or I should say Great Britain, is about 300 to 400% of their GDP, which is a problem, but they're doing okay despite their austerity measures. Anyways, back to our debt. With the new Republican leadership in Congress, they have not been in favor of raising the debt ceiling. Now, not raising the debt ceiling would be catastrophic. It would cause the U.S. to default on their debt. And if any of you people out there have any knowledge of defaulting, it's bad. Interest rates would go up for Americans. Gas prices would skyrocket. And it would be bad. People would not trust the dollar globally because everything is run on the basis of the dollar. They would invest in other countries, which would be bad for us. The value of the dollar would be significantly weakened. Now, to the politics of it. As I mentioned earlier, the Republicans consider themselves deficit hawks and do not want to raise the debt ceiling without spending cuts. Now, the current debt ceiling is about $14.3 trillion, and there are proposals to raise it $2 trillion to about $16 trillion. Now, the Republicans want to make $2 trillion of spending cuts in favor of that. The Democrats, on the other hand, want to increase tax revenue, which raising taxes is clearly off the table since it is too much of a politically divisive issue. But they instead want to reform the tax code so that large corporations and the billionaires can't get through the loopholes, and the U.S. can make, I want to say, about $800 billion based on this proposal. Now, the Republicans are not for that. In the way that Republicans view it is that they already given up enough by raising the debt ceiling, and that the Democrats have to give by doing cuts, such as cuts in Social Security and Medicare, also known as entitlement cuts. So, but in my opinion, the Republicans aren't giving up anything by raising the debt ceiling. It must be raised. It is impossible. It's going to be impossible for this country to turn around a $1.4 trillion deficit into a surplus just like that in a month, which would be the only alternative to raising the debt ceiling. So debt ceiling must be raised, and we need sacrifices on both sides. That's compromise, and that's what our country was built on. And that was episode 1. And I'll see you next week.